behind bars. You have freedom in that sense. But if you breach any one of the laws and the society, the laws of man that are created by a handful of, we all know who they are. I mean, they're basically nutcases. We got the worst of people running the show, okay? The least qualified people running the show. And it's reflected in the way things are. It's emblematic of the way it trickles down. It's trickle down madness that's coming from the very top. And of course, it infects all of our hearts and minds, our spirits, our souls. And it has everything to do with money. Everything to do with that's their power. You understand the power of the purse string. That they can literally starve you to death if they choose, right? Because that's one thing you need to get food is you need money. And the same thing goes for any other essential human needs, like shelter, right? If you don't have money, okay, then you can, for all they care, the world cares, the policies, the laws, you can die out in the cold. There's no law against being homeless. You understand the madness that, of course, it's everywhere. It's palpable, and we're all infected by it through a scientific principle known as osmosis. You cannot divorce yourself from your fellow man's well-being. We're in this together. I mean, we talk about slavery. It's been going on since the beginning of time. It's not going on today. What they've done is they've normalized slavery over a long period of time, over half a century since they murdered JFK. The Labor Department has had to be in on this. Their delinquency is so blatant, so glaring, so obvious that nobody can deny it. They had every basis, every justification, every reason in the world to give commensurate cost of living adjustments to federal minimum wage workers over the last half century, and they have not done it. And you telling me that's just an oversight that went on and on and on for over half a century now? But just, I'm talking about the buying power, the worth of minimum wage, whatever it was. When it was $1 an hour. Let's just go back in time and do the math. What was the consumer price index? Is it true what this guy says, that you could be a homeowner and your wife could stay home if she wanted to, or she could work if she wanted to on a minimum wage job, pay all your bills, have money to burn, money to save, disposable income on $1 an hour? Is that true? Yes, and it's true that you could have minimum wage could be 50 cents an hour today and have a greater buying power, which is what should have happened if we had an iota of progress over that period of time. You see, if your money keeps gradually increasing in worth as it should, okay, and I'll just give one example, okay, is what happened with the VCR. When in the early 80s, nobody could afford them. They were $1,000. People used to rent them. $1,000 was a down payment on a fixer-upper. Literally, okay, here in California even. But by the mid-90s, when that house that was selling for $100,000 now costs $500,000, you could get a VCR for $50 on sale by the mid-90s. So some 10, 12 years later, 13, 14 years later, whatever it was, that's how much your VCR dollars increased in worth. People say, well, why didn't that happen to housing? It should have, you understand, if the markets weren't being rigged, manipulated, fixed. It's collusion of special interest groups that get in there and say, hey, we benefit from this thing. Okay, we just turn everything all quagmire. We dump money on the market. There's no basis for an appraisal anymore. It's whatever the market will bear. Hell, people are outbidding each other because you've got pockets of people, niches of people with money that are financially well heeled. So they go out there and they grab everything, and that causes the cost of living to go up. You see, it just feeds on itself, and it gets worse and worse and worse. They debase the money and tell the public through the mainstream media that it's good that the value of your house went up. Everybody cares about the value of their houses. It's like, dude, are you crazy? Who cares about the value of their houses? You care about the value of your buying power, your money. So you see how I blame the Labor Department? You've got these top politicians we're talking about in the Senate and the Congress, and often the executive branch, like President Obama being very instrumental in that bailout of '08. 90+% of the American people were opposed to that. And he's going to say, oh, you're just all stupid. And we elitists, we Obama types, Bushes, we know best. And these congressmen and senators, this critical mass, because the majority of these people voted for this bailout of these politicians that are supposed to be serving the public. But they stabbed us in the back. They betrayed us. They're traitors to the American people, to what's best for the American people in the long run. Okay, they should have let the damage be done then, a market correction. These criminals dumped way too much money on the market. But instead, they bailed out the criminals. They made them whole and took it out on the public through all these foreclosures, the effects of which are still being felt today. While rents keep rising, and we're spending $50 billion a year on the Section 8 housing, and all it's doing is exacerbating the problem. If they took away that $50 billion a year that we, the taxpayers, are paying, okay, homelessness would probably dry up in short order. Do you understand the insanity of what's going on here? And then we say, well, that's socialism. It's those damn socialists, those welfare cheaters and mooches and all that, and blame them for the economic problems. And then we're going to blame the minimum wage workers for cost of living inflation. They're greedy. I mean, what do they demand? 14? What? You greedy? It's your fault. That's why we have inflation. It's your fault over the last 50 years. It's your fault. Even though the exact opposite is the truth. But yet this is the kind of crap they feed us. This gaslighting. It's like, no, we're the secular world. We define terms and we tell you what curriculums to have. We don't teach anything about ethics. Nobody cares. You don't have to live by the golden rule. No, you get out there. It's dog eat dog. Get with the program. Comply, conform, capitulate. Devour one another. We don't care. Stab each other in the back. Step on toes. Cut each other's throats. Hey, look, you got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. You got to be aggressive. You got to be assertive. A go-getter. So you get out. You understand how this works. So it's not the smartest people. It's certainly not the nicest people or most compassionate people that end up at the top, okay? Because remember, it's not just cream that rises to the top, but scum rises to the top. And that's who we have running the show. Scum-sucking maggots is what they are. And it filters down to us. It's trickled down. Scum, you understand? So they infect the masses. So it's very easy to be evil and not know it just by complying and conforming to this scene. We're in trouble. We're really in. I mean, I'm scared. I feel it on a visceral, tangible, palpable basis. I feel it in my body. I'm so scared of what it's going to take to wake us up. I am. I shake sometimes in anticipation. I mean, but God's got to put his foot down hard, man. We got to start listening. We got to start doing what he wants us to do. Getting along with each other, treating each other with gentleness, with respect, the way he wants us to treat ourselves. Okay, we've got to love one another. The 2 commandments that he gave us, that Jesus gave us, love God above all else. Okay, that seems reasonable. You wouldn't know what love was. He gave you existence. Yeah, I'll do that. Everything good I've ever experienced. And he's not responsible for anything bad since the dawn of creation. It's about free will choice. That's what brought the curse. The forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Okay, that's where it harkens back to. The fall of man. Everything was corrupted. Okay. That's the way the story goes, my friends, and it all makes perfect sense. The curse that subsequently befell the earth, thorns on roses, etc., everything organically negative, it all goes back to free will choice. But God had to give us free will choice in order that we weren't automatons. We weren't like any of the other animals in that sense. We weren't going by pure instinct only. We had free will choice. We were like gods. That's why it's written that we are made in the image and likeness of God. We have free will choice. But we've chosen wrong. We've chosen evil desires. We've chosen money, okay, over God for far too many people, and it's imbalance. And we've got to take the power back. The God-fearing people, the God-loving people, have to see their own welfare entwined in other beings that are off track, that are evil, and sometimes they don't even know it. We got to somehow try to reach these people and to tell them, hey, look, it's late, man. The change of the age is long in the tooth. Okay, this new age is coming. God is bringing it upon the earth. That this long, drawn out age of the money lovers, these masters of misery, that have been having their way for thousands of years, sometimes in periods of history worse than others, but they've always had their way. They've always controlled us with the money. You understand? We've all just bought into it, lock, stock, and barrel, because we all are money lovers. What fool, what idiot doesn't love money? It's a confession, because you have to get it. And when you get it, you will hate money too, because God hates money, because it so easily taints us, corrupts us, corrupts our hearts and minds, our spirits, our souls, everything about ourselves, because we love it so much, and our affections go to it, and our attention goes to it. When God says, no, I'm the only God that's worthy of that, and it is compared to a false competing God. That's how powerful this thing we call money is. It's not a joke. It's serious. And it can be embedded in your heart, and you don't even know it because you haven't really thought about it much. But it says we should use worldly wealth to win friends. I mean, we've just got to get things from God's perspective, get our values straight from Him. That's the trick. And our values should be in line with His. And we are the most valuable thing. And that means people that you look down on maybe now, people you consider your nemesis, your enemy, whatever it is. And God says, no, you've got to treat them as a brother or sister. You love them like yourself. That's the second commandment He gave. Love one another. And if you love one another, you will care deeply, genuinely about one another. You will really get it. You will see that it's science. It's not religion. It's osmosis. It's science. Okay, we cannot divorce ourselves from others. Maybe it's nice in theory, and all these people walking around with pseudo happiness. It's a satanic form of happiness. I mean, they can be gleaming. Their eyes can be gleaming. They can have a smile from ear to ear. But you understand where they're going from here, because their values are screwed up. And on Judgment Day, when they're told to give account for why they value this, and they didn't cultivate values of the same values as God, as human beings, where do you think they're going to go? Where do you think they're going to get judged? When they love money that much, when they never spent any time with the true God, they just never thought about it. You understand? So what do they have? They got nothing. They got no substance. They're not found worthy and deserving of inheriting a vastly better world without any form of money. An aspect of reality most human beings can barely conceive of now because of our training. It's so imbued, it's so embedded within every fiber of all of our beings, this thing we call money. And God did not create it. Evil men created it for the purposes of enslaving other men. It's that simple. It's that simple, and now they've normalized it over a long period of time. We have slavery in America. What these evil people would like to do is just turn America into another run-of-the-mill, broke down, destroyed Latin American country. That's what they're trying to do here. And we got to stop them. And you got to get it from God's point of view. We all have not only a right, I believe a duty to inspire thought, to provoke thought, to invoke thought in other people. And ask people. It transcends all politics to ask people, whose planet is this anyhow? And then what does God say? Ask, what is God's opinion on that? And when you realize it's one another, you go, well, whoa, that changes the paradigm entirely. So you mean from birth, maybe we should just be handed our shares in the planet's wealth? All a cut in all the natural resources? Yeah, well, I mean, isn't that fair? Well, God would start with a level playing field. Right, so we serve one another of our own free will and accord. We're not coerced to do it. We do it because, hey, everything was handed us on a silver platter from birth. And we've got a drive, man. We've got an irresistible urge to give back, to utilize our God-given talents, to serve, to be appreciated by others of those talents that God gave us, to really care and feel compelled to serve in some capacity, to really make a mark and do things that people appreciate, leave it a better world for your visit. All those things that are so natural if we just gravitate toward our godly side. So the commandments of God they'll fall into place automatically with very little effort. God requires very little of you, me, or anybody else. His yoke is easy, his load is light. It's the path of least resistance. He just wants friends, trustworthy and true friends that he can count on. I mean, and how hard is that? A couple minutes a day you spend with your most powerful friend that'll alleviate all your stressors, all the pain and stuff that you can't even share with anybody else. They have no right to know, or very select people do. They shouldn't know about what I'm going through. Why burden them? What can